What's good, y'all? Wave Magnetic here, and I'm gonna do something a little different today. Today, I want to give you my top 10 tips for music production. So these right here are like my tried and true in terms of like what it takes to make good music and what it takes to be a good music producer. Because there's almost a science to this. So tip number one. You gotta write a good song, okay? The most important thing about music production is not the production. The most important thing is the song. So you gotta write good chords, you gotta write good melodies, you gotta have a good drum beat. Like, it's gotta be a song on its own before you start putting in all like the sound design stuff and all the other bells and whistles, you know what I mean? So like, you gotta have the good foundation to the song before you do anything else. If you start trying to make some crazy sound and you don't even know what the melody is, or you don't know what the chords are going to be, or what kind of drum beat you're going to be using, then it's kind of like you're kind of working backwards there. All right. So tip two is I would suggest making your drops first or making your choruses first and then working backwards from there. So like, the most important part of any song is either the chorus or the drop, depending on what style of music you do. If you're doing electronic dance music, it's the drop. And if you're writing pop music or any other song that has vocals in it, it's pretty much the chorus. So write your choruses, write your drops first. Get them to be super hitting, get it to be like make people want to dance or really get your point across, and then go back and write your verses and your build-ups or whatever you're going to do. Especially if you're like a songwriter and you write your chorus first, then you go, that right there is what your song is going to be about. And then when you do your your verse, it winds up explaining the chorus. You get what I mean? So always start on the drop or the chorus first, and then work backwards and make the other stuff just kind of express why that drop or that chorus is important. Okay. My third tip would be pick the right sounds. Now, I know this is like, my first tip was to write a good song, but once you got the song down, once you got your chorus down, you gotta pick the right sounds, okay? So like, pick the right pianos, pads, kicks, snares, your lead melody, you got your vocals and all that kind of stuff. Think about like orchestration when you're doing this. Like, don't just pick random sounds, because like, certain things work together and certain things don't. Just to give you an example, when you're making a song and you're producing it, okay, say it's not a live, think about it like it's a live band. Think about, okay, what's in a band? You got drums, you might have a guitar, you might have a piano or organ or something, you got a singer, you got a bass, you might have some horns in there, and that's generally what it is. Like, if you got strings, a lot of times you don't have a piano. And if you got a piano, a lot of times you don't got strings. And if you have a piano, sometimes you don't have a guitar. But if you got an organ, you might have a guitar. Or there could be a guitar and no piano or organ. You see what I mean? So like, and another thing is with like electronic music, when you have like your 808s, you can have an 808. A lot of times there's not a lot of high end on the 808. It's really low, right? So when you have 808, you can put chords in there. There's room for you to put like a Fender Rhodes. There's room for you to put a big sawtooth pad. There's room for you to put a whole bunch of different kinds of stuff, right? But if you got a real like growl bass, like real harsh bass sound, a lot of times you don't need chords at all. If you put chords in there, a piano, a sawtooth pad, or a square pad or something like that, a lot of times that's just going to get in the way. It's going to get really harsh. So that's kind of one of my rules, is like, if I'm using like a bass that's real growl sounding, I don't really have chords most of the time. And if I have a bass that's real subby, I'll throw some chords in to fill out the frequency spectrum, because you want the whole frequency spectrum to be filled up from top to bottom. I know we're in the camera. All the way. Okay? So, let's see here. The next thing, tip number 4 would be, when you're producing your songs, make sure that you only have one thing that's getting everybody's attention. The one thing is so important. You want to draw people's attention to one thing at a time, okay? Whether it's the synth line, that's the melody, whether it's the bass line, whether it's the vocalist, whether it's the trumpet or the saxophone or something. But whatever it is, make sure it's just one thing at a time that gets the attention, all right? Like, just to give you an example, like if you have a melody that's like the main melody, and then you have counter melodies going on. This is actually kind of a mixing thing too. So like, you don't want it to be super loud. The counter melody can't be just as loud as this, because now it's distracting. You see, like, it's covering up my face, right? But if I pull it back, you can see my face, and you can see this, and you can see this. And that is like the depth, okay? So you got to make sure that it's only one thing at a time. And sometimes you don't need a bunch of counter melodies. Sometimes you just have the chords, and it's just supporting whatever the main melody is. Or you might have some horns playing in the background, but it's supporting the main melody or the vocalist. It's not getting in the way. So one thing at a time to get people's attention, okay? Tip number 5 is, when you're starting out, I would highly suggest to pick one synth, just one soft synth, and learn it big time. Learn it through ins and outs. Just learn one and be able to make all your sounds with that one. Because a lot of people, they want to get Serum, they want to get Massive or Massive X or whatever it is now, and then you get Spire, and then you get Nexus, and then you get FM8, and then you're like, yeah, I got all the stuff now, I'm gonna be good, right? No, that's way too much stuff. To keep it real, you can make any sound that you need with one of those synths. You don't need all of them, okay? So what I would suggest is just using one synth at a time. Just use one. And once you learn how to do it, you'll see that you don't even really need a lot of them, because you learn the basics of sound design. You learn like how to actually get sounds that you like. And then you'll learn that certain different ones have different kind of sounds to them, and you'll decide which ones you want to use at different times. But I mean, it's really like you can pretty much make anything with any one of them. So for me, what I use as my main synth is Serum, okay? And Serum is dope. Serum is really simple. It looks just like this. This is Serum. In here, you can just make anything. You got the 2 oscillators here, and then you got the sub here. You can make all kinds of stuff. So when you're starting out, I would suggest either getting Serum or getting Massive or Spire or whatever. Just pick one and just go with it. It really don't even matter which one. Just whichever one makes sense to you, rock with it. All right. Tip number 6 is, especially when you're a beginner, and even when you're not a beginner, pick one DAW and stick with it. Just learn the one DAW and make all your music in that DAW. And if you don't know what DAW, the DAW means Digital Audio Workstation, okay? And that right there is basically the program that you make your music in, okay? That's Ableton, that's Ableton, Cubase, Pro Tools, Logic, Reason, I mean, whatever you think of. There's so many of them. Now the thing about them is they all pretty much do the same thing. You can make great music in all of them. It doesn't really matter. You just pick one that makes sense to your brain, and that maybe you have a friend who also uses it, so you can ask them for advice. Other than that, I mean, you don't really need to switch around. You just pick one. You know, I use Ableton, because Ableton makes it easy for me to do things that I do. I do live performance with Ableton, and I make my music inside of Ableton. So none of the other DAWs allows me to perform in the DAW. I would have to make the song in the DAW and then go into like Tractor or one of the DJ programs in order to perform. But I like Ableton because I can do both all in one program, and I don't need to learn like 3 different programs in order to do everything that I want to do. So that's why I choose Ableton, but you should just pick one and stick with it. All right. So number 7 is study other people's music. Okay. I know that we're all artists. I know that we're all creative people, and I know that we all get inspiration, and everybody is the best producer, musician, singer who's ever lived, and they believe that they're going to be the next insert name here. Okay. And that's fine. But the thing is that even those people who became super, super famous had inspiration from someone. Okay. They studied other people's music. Okay. Especially if you're going to be a songwriter, learn other people's music, study the music. As a producer, my suggestion would be to take 10 songs. Okay. This is the fastest way. If you want to get better at production, this is the fastest way to do it. If you want to get better at anything, this is the fastest way to do it. But anyway, take 10 songs that you really like. I don't care what genre. I don't care what it is. Pick 10 songs that you really like. Okay. Now, put them in your DAW and figure out how to recreate them. So what I mean by that is take the drum beat and recreate the drum beat. Like program the drum beat, okay? Then find the same samples that person used for their song. Wow, that is really loud. They are cutting the grass out there. Listen to the drum beat. Use the samples that they have. Like find samples that sound just like the ones that they have. Recreate the same beat. Like make it sound just like theirs. Then listen to their bass. What does their bass sound like? Find a bass sample that sounds like it, or try and make that same bass in Serum or some other program that you have. Then the other thing is the piano. Is there a piano in there? Use it. Make them figure out what the chords are. Put them down. Just copy the song exactly. Now this doesn't sound like this is too creative, because it's not. What you're learning how to do is how to listen to something and how to make it come out of the speakers. You get what I mean? If you hear something in your head, you want to be able to reproduce it to come out of the speakers or to come out of the trumpet. You know, when you're playing your trumpet or you're singing or whatever, is you don't want any like disconnect from hear it in my mind, put it out. That's what you're learning how to do when you try and copy somebody else's music like that. Do that to 10 songs, and I can almost guarantee you're going to feel like you're an expert at all of this stuff. All right. You're going to feel very confident about making music. Let's see here. Tip number 8 is similar to 7 in the sense that use reference tracks. So like when you're making a song and you're mixing or you're producing a song, throw a reference track in there. Like for me, a lot of times I'll be mixing a song. I'll get to like the last 10 to 15% of the song where I'm like mixing it, trying to get it right. And I'll throw a reference track in there and I'm listening to it. And I'm saying to myself, okay, is their track brighter than mine? Is it duller than mine? Is my track muddy? What frequencies is muddy about it? Is it more punchy? Is my kick drum too loud? Are the vocals too quiet or loud? You know, so I'm comparing them in terms of like my balances and everything. And then you don't have to like exactly copy it because it's not their song, it's your song. But it gives you a reference point to see where your song stacks up. Like if this other song was on a Spotify playlist and your song came after it, would people skip it or would they continue listening? That's the question you got to ask yourself. All right. Tip number 9 is when you're mixing your songs, mix at low levels. Don't turn your speakers up loud. Okay. For one thing, it's dangerous. You can hurt your ears like permanently, have some permanent ear damage, and then you can't do nothing with music, right? But in terms of a producing good music standpoint, listening to the songs at a lower level makes it so that you can hear the detail in the song. When you turn it up, the mid range gets really like in your face, and almost everything sounds good loud. But when you turn it up really loud, it just hits you it feels like it's hitting you in the face, and it's hard to really tell the balance. But when you turn the song low and you try and tweak all the different things, you can really hear all the details. You can hear all the sparkly stuff on the top, and you can really make good mixing decisions. Tip number 10. I'm all about simplicity, okay? So when you start getting into mixing, just pick a few plugins and learn them. I don't care what nobody tell you. Do not get the whole Waves package. Don't get all Waves plugins off jump. Don't go and get the whole big plugin alliance mega bundle or whatever, where you get every plugin that they have. You'll have so much stuff, and you won't know how to use it. You don't know what it's for. You just like sifting through all of this stuff, and you don't even know what it is. All right. I don't think that's the best way to start. All right. So when you start mixing, the best thing to do is to just get a few plugins. I would suggest to anybody get a channel strip of some kind. In terms of channel strips, what I mean by that is, Waves has that SSL channel strip that you can get. That's always good. They have 2 of them really. That's not my go-to. My go-to, if you look here, my go-to is actually Plugin Alliance, the BX console, the SSL 4000G. That is my go-to right there. This is the main thing. The channel strip is dope because it comes with the compressors right here. You got your EQ. It has some distortion in it right here. Okay. And this is actually a really dope plugin. If you don't have this, I would really suggest get any of the Plugin Alliance channel strips, whichever one you want to use. But yeah, so get yourself a channel strip like this. One of the SSL, they got a Neve channel strip with Plugin Alliance. They got 2, I think. They got the Focusrite one. Any of them, just get whichever one you want. I would suggest getting a compressor. Okay. One of my main compressors that I use is the CLA 76. Okay, I use this on like every vocal, and it sounds great. Gets my vocals dope. You can use other plugins. You can use other compressors. They don't gotta be this one, but that's the one that's my go-to one. All right. Then I would suggest getting a distortion plugin. My go-to is Decapitator. You got all the 5 different settings for distortion, and that's my go-to right there, okay? Then, outside of that, if you want to get some other stuff, you can get like a reverb plugin or a delay plugin. I personally have never bought a delay plugin. The delay plugins that's inside of Ableton are really good, so like I just use that. And then reverb, actually the one that's in Ableton is really good too, but I did buy the Valhalla one. So if you're going to get a reverb, you could get this and it's cool. I like this Valhalla reverb. It sounds really good. Let's see here. So the other thing is that if you get into mastering, you're going to master your own music. I would suggest getting something like Ozone. This is a mastering suite, so it comes with a bunch of different plugins and stuff like that. So with this, you can master all your music. This is what I use for mastering my music anyway. So I would definitely go with Ozone for that. I'm going to give you one more tip as a bonus. Tip 11 would be make a template. I have a template that I use for my stuff, okay? Like I always do I always start every song with this same template. So if you look here, my template, I have Serum as my go-to right here. I always start off with that. And then there's an audio. Ooh, geez. Then there's an audio, there's an audio track here. Then the template really goes in right here for when it comes to my sends. So I have a long reverb here. Okay, that I said that's send 1 right here, or A. Then I have a medium length reverb. Okay. Then I have a short room reverb right here. It's really short. This one's 1 second. All right. Then I have my delay set up. Here's a slap right here. This right here is an 8th note right here. And then this right here is a quarter note. And have all of that bust to another send. And in this send right here, I usually put my my sidechain compression and stuff like that on. So yeah, that's kind of how I do my template. So I would suggest having a template that you do all your stuff with, okay? So that's right here is my 11 music production tips, okay? So if you learned something new, if this helped you out, comment below. Let me know which tip really resonated with you. And if you learned something new, make sure you hit the subscribe button below and the notification bell so that you'll know the next time that I put out a video. And I will see you on the next one. Peace!